Hello, everybody, and welcome to Chapter 1, The World Before the Opening of the Atlantic. Basically, this is our first chapter, and this chapter discusses the migration of people before the Europeans got here. So this is like 12,000 years ago. Europeans didn't get here till 500 years ago. So 12,000 versus 500. All right, let's get started. All right, so first our learning goal. Uh, learning goal is students will know how North American societies developed across Mesoamerica and South America and be able to explain how climate changes allowed migration to spread throughout America. Basically, what this learning goal is saying is that you, the students, have to know how people started moving across North America and South America and understand how the climate changes or weather pattern changes allowed people to move about throughout America. Okay, so this right here, this is our scale 1, 2, 3, and 4. In the PowerPoint, I will have questions set up that will be able to determine what level you are on. Okay, let's start with level 2 because level 1 kind of has to do with 2 and 3. Level 2, what you need to be able to do is you need to be able to know what the Bering Land Bridge is, what migration is, what environments are, what culture is, and what the word develop means. And so you need, for a level 2, you need to be able to know how climate change affected people's migration. Okay, now up to level 3, that means on grade level, or that just means like that's where you're supposed to be. So if you're on level 3, you need to be able to understand how people migrated, what some things about these people, some characteristics. You need to know how they developed through Mesoamerica and South America, like how did they get there, and you also need to know how these migrations spread throughout America. So you need to know different components about the way these people migrated. Okay, level 4 is that you need to be able to use the knowledge from the other steps and be able to predict how climate change could affect people today on the planet. So if one day the climate totally changed for whatever reason, then you would be able to foresee how that might impact people. Okay, so for vocabulary, this is for vocab chapter 1. As stated in the learning goal, I added an extra word in there. The vocab you need to know for this chapter, you need to know Bering Land Bridge, migration, environment, culture, develop, and hunter-gatherers. Now, for vocabulary, you need to make sure that you do Cornell note style. We've gone over Cornell note style, and if you forgot how to do it, the instructions are printed on your sheet this week. Okay, first vocab word, Bering Land Bridge. Right now, the Bering Land Bridge does not exist. It is a body of water between Asia and North America. It's now known as the Bering Sea. 12,000 years ago, which we'll explain more about later, but 12,000 years ago, the Ice Age made the bottom levels of the sea exposed so people could walk across the land between Asia and America, and it allowed the 12,000 years ago people to be able to go from Asia to America. So we'll get into more detail about that later. All right, migration. Migration is a movement of people or animals from one place to another. This is just a map of basically like all the places where people have migrated throughout time. You can see different patterns and how people from different places moved around and how the planet got populated. Okay, environment. Environment is climates and land formations that surround living things. Climate is just another word for weather patterns. So Florida has a warm climate. Okay, it's usually fairly warm in Florida. Okay, and land formations, that's like mountains, hills, grasslands, and things like that. So the environment is how you and other animals kind of interact with the weather and hills and mountains and things around you. Kind of a general definition. Okay, next word, culture. Culture is a group set of common values and traditions, such as the language you speak and the holidays you celebrate. Okay, so culture is this big sweeping word for the languages you speak, the holidays you celebrate, the clothes you wear, music you listen to, all of this stuff. It's all part of culture. There's a million different kinds of culture, and so some people are part of different cultures, and so yeah, pretty much everything you do, even the food you eat, goes into a kind of a culture that you may be a part of, or you may not be a part of. Okay, our next word is develop. Develop just means to making or improving something over time. So if you are trying, like right now, you are trying to develop your vocabulary skills. You are trying to get better at vocabulary. You're trying to understand it more. This picture right here, these guys are trying to move the arrow up, so they're trying to develop the arrow there. So yeah, develop, pretty simple. Okay, so in this chapter, we're going to talk about these people called hunter-gatherers. Hunter-gatherers are people who don't stay in one spot. They hunt animals and they collect plants for food, and they're constantly on the move. Right here, these guys are hunting a woolly mammoth, okay? These hunter-gatherer old Indian people, they would, send out groups of 10 to 12 people, and they would kill these woolly mammoths, okay? And after they get done, they would cut it up into a bunch of pieces, carry it back to camp and eat it. Also, while some people were hunting, other people were out collecting plants and berries and other sorts of fruits and whatever so that they could eat it. Okay, these people are always on the move. They don't live in a village, okay? They carry stuff around with them and they make shelter in different places as they move, okay? Something you need to understand is that these people are always moving. It's very rare that they stay in one spot. Okay, so let's get started on the first Americans. These first Americans were these hunter-gatherer types. They came here 12,000 years ago from Asia before the word America was ever even invented. Okay, so these people are migrating over here from Asia. That's where these people come from. At the time, the Earth's environment was much different. So the world looked a lot different than it does today, especially the weather. The Earth was going through what's called an ice age. An ice age is basically a term for when the whole, pretty much almost the entire world is frozen over with ice and snow. Sometimes during the ice age, the layers of ice could sometimes be anywhere from 1 to 3 miles tall. So think about like a road that's a mile long, or running around a track 4 times. Running around a track 4 times, that's a mile. So imagine a block of ice that tall, not long, tall. Okay, so during ice age, the ice gets in the way of people traveling and animals traveling. So during this time, hunter-gatherers would basically follow food wherever it went so they could survive. Hunter-gatherers couldn't afford to stay in one spot and just hope that food would come to them. They had to chase it. They had to follow it wherever it went. If they didn't follow it, they would starve. Now, during the Ice Age, so around 12,000 years ago, the Ice Age was kind of towards its end, but the Ice Age, what it did is that it made the sea level drop. So the level of the water used to be higher, but during the Ice Age, the sea level dropped. And so what that did is it made it so that the land between, or the water between Asia and North America, it turned into land because the water level fell so low that the bottom of the ocean was exposed, and it allowed people to cross over it. Now, The only reason why people crossed over the land was because they were following the herds of animals. Okay, remember, the hunter-gatherers always following the animals no matter where they go. Alright, so inside of this PowerPoint here, I got a little video, short little video. Doesn't have any sound, but it kind of lays it out for you. So as you can see, the animals are crossing the land, and then the hunter, the nomadic hunter or the hunter-gatherer, follows them along. And then at the end of the ice age, the glaciers melted, the water level rise, and that's how it is today. So 12,000 years ago, 12,000 years ago, it was land, and then the glaciers melted, all that ice melted, and it became water again. Okay? So let's move on to the next one. Alright, so if you look right here at these maps, this right here, these are the different angles, but the same pieces of land. Okay, this is 12,000 years ago. It was all land right here. Okay, and it was like that for a long time. It wasn't like it was just like that for one day or something. Okay, there was a land bridge there for thousands of years. And then as the glaciers melted, it gets us to where we are now. This right here. As you can see, there's water right here now. This is what it is now. This is what it was 12,000 years ago. Okay. Now, hopefully you're paying attention. We got our level 2 questions. For each level 2 question, they need to be 1 or 2 sentences, and they need to be restated. Okay? So, when you restate, where did the first Americans come from? You would start that answer with, the first Americans came from blank. Okay? So make sure that you're writing complete sentences for these answers. You will not get credit for incomplete sentences. Okay, so your 3 questions are, where did the first Americans come from? So that's pretty straightforward. Why did they come to North America? So why did they come to the continent that the United States is? Why did they come? And how did they get to North America? Okay, so you can take this in many different ways. How did they travel here? Why or what allowed them to travel the way they did? Okay, so use the information that you got in your notes to help you out with these questions. Alright, so after the migration, the people who crossed the bridge traveled far and wide to North and South America. And depending on the animals they hunted and the plants they gathered, that would determine where in the Americas where they would end up. When I say the Americas, I mean North America, Central America, and South America. So if they followed a certain kind of animal, that animal might have migrated to a different part of the continent. Okay, they might have ended up somewhere else, and that's where they ended up living. So these people would travel and walk extremely long distances, and then they would finally find a place where it suited them. They finally found a place that had all the animals and plants that they liked, and they would stay there. So as the ice age went away, people started to farm and permanently live in one place. So as these people found a place where all the plants and animals they liked were, they stayed there. Okay, this is important. They stayed where they were. All right, next part. This is just some zones of different kinds of people, like where people ended up. Some people stayed up here. They didn't walk that far. People down 12 walked a long way. I mean, from Alaska to the bottom part of Chile and Argentina, that's a long way. A lot of these people also migrated down to Florida. Okay, so don't think that people never went to Florida, because they did. And so these are just different regions that people walk to. As we went on, these people became our Native American tribes that we know today. I don't know all these Native American tribes, but you know, the Navajo, the Comanche, the Cheyenne, the Arapaho, the Chickasaw, Cherokee, Creek, Shawnee, the Illini, the Powhatan, the Wampanoag, the Iroquois, the Delaware. You know, all these people all stem from this original migration, you know, 12,000 years ago. All right, level 3 question. This needs to be 3 to 5 sentences, okay? So I'm looking for a paragraph for this. Why did the first Americans end up settling where they did? You know, why did they choose the place that they chose? I mean, what's the point? Try to use the vocabulary that we have learned in your answer. So try to use hunter-gatherers, climate, environment, develop. Try to use these words in your answer. Okay, it makes it sound better and you'll definitely get more points for it. Okay, now, if you're on this question, you're at a level 4. Okay, level 4 questions are intense. Here's your question. Using your knowledge from today, how do you think a major climate change would change our day-to-day lives? Okay, so you have to use examples and information from level 3, 2, and 1. So how do you think a major climate change would affect us today? Let's say the world got really cold or the world got really hot. You know, how would we as human beings have to adapt to that? Okay, so I just want you to think about that and give me a nice answer for that. Thank you. All right, guys, well, that wraps it up. If you have any questions, feel free to ask, and have a good day.